Can you believe it's September? It's remarkable how fast the summer goes by. But I have to tell you, I'm glad to be back with you. And as we walk into this month, what I want to do is just kind of introduce you to our meditation passage. If you're not familiar with rhythms and how that looks and how it works here at Hoboken Grace, I invite you to explore that on our rhythms page. And one of the tools that we introduce every month is a meditation passage. It's just a passage that we want to, as we say, to seep into the cracks and crevices of our life. And this month, with our passage, we're going to do something a little bit different. We don't typically do this, but I'm actually going to use a passage that we're going to be diving into on Sundays here at Hoboken Grace. And typically we don't connect the two, but with this one, I want it to be something that literally roots itself in our soul, because it calls us to something that's so contrary to what we believe and to what we typically think, or how we see the world. The passage is found in 1 Timothy, and as Paul's writing to Timothy, he says this near the end of the book. In verse 17 of chapter 6, he says, "Teach those who are rich in this world not to be proud and not to trust in their money, which is so unreliable. Their trust should be in God, who richly gives us all we need for our enjoyment. Tell them to use their money to do good. They should be rich in good works and generous to those in need, always being ready to share with others. By doing this, they'll be storing up their treasure as a good foundation for the future, that they may experience true life." As you look at this passage, he's saying something to Timothy that if we're honest about it, it's a complete 180 from the way that we typically think about life. Because we live in a culture and a world that says true life is found by the accumulation of things. But Jesus has stepped into our lives, and in a really powerful way, he's called us to an entirely new construct. I don't think that many of us understand this. But when Jesus steps in and says, listen guys, I want for you to understand something. It's better to give than to receive. We don't usually understand just how significant that statement is, because for most of us, we hear him saying, well, it's nice to give, or it feels good to give, or it's a good thing to do, or it's something that you should include in your life, or something that you should do from time to time. That's how we hear what he's saying. It's not actually what he's saying. What he's saying is a completely different idea of looking at the world. It's an entirely different construct. The construct in which we live is no, get what you can, accumulate, and life is found. True life is found when you have. And Jesus says, no, you're living life backwards. You're living life backwards. That's not where life's found. Life's found in generosity. Life's found when you give. True life, great life, the life that you were created for, is found when you give. Not when you take, and when you give more than you receive. But we don't believe him about that, and we didn't believe him when he told us, and so God decided to become one of us and show us. And so he lives his entire life to give and give and give. And he gives his life, receiving nothing in return. He says, you have to understand, it's not just a nice thing to do. It's not just something that you do occasionally. It's not a nice add-on to life. He says, no. It's life. This is life. And it's not, sometimes when we interact with what God says, we come to him as if he's trying to impose a moral code onto who we are. And he's saying, well, this is the right thing. It's not actually what he's doing. He's saying this is the thing. This is how you were created. you have to understand you're living contrary to how you were actually created. You're living contrary to the fiber of how I made you. It's not just like, well, this is the moral thing or the right thing. It's like, no, this is you, and when you live contrary to you and how I created you, then it causes all this destruction. It gets really ugly and really bad. And we know that because we live in that, but we keep holding on to the same construct and keep holding on to the same ideas. But then he steps in and says, no, you've got to change the way you look at it. Life is actually found in generosity. Life is actually found in giving. And he shows us this, and then he calls us to develop a community where this is the reality. And in this passage, he's saying to Timothy, he's saying, teach people this. Teach them not to think that life is found in how you can accumulate and what you have, but to teach them that life is found when you give and to be rich in generosity with the way in which you love the people around you, with the way in which you give to the world around you. And so what I want for us to do over the course of this next month is just to sit with that passage, and hopefully to sit with it long enough where it disrupts the way that we see things, and it disrupts the way that we look at the world around us, and it starts to make us really nervous about the way in which we've been living our lives, so that maybe, just maybe, we might be able to not just add generosity to our current construct, but maybe, just maybe, we might awaken to the construct for which we were created, and the life that is ingrained in the fiber of who we are, and that maybe we could take one more step to becoming like Jesus. May this passage infiltrate and root itself in our souls, that we might find, as he says as he comes to the end, true life.